Lately I've been drawing a lot of super rendered book cover stuff. I'm just in the mood to draw some comics, so I'm going to draw some X-Men. Won't you join me? I started off going down the rabbit hole of Google, just typing in X-Men, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, which characters I wanted to settle on. I ended up deciding to go with Colossus, Storm, and Wolverine. I was thinking about Kitty Pryde too, but I think Colossus, Storm, and Wolverine would be fun because there's a lot of contrast with different sizes and different character types. So once I decided which characters I wanted to draw, I opened up Photoshop and did a super quick, super loose sketch just to get an idea of size proportions, basic positions. Yeah, it looks pretty bad, but you know, it's just a sketch. But I printed these characters out one by one. And we're going to go over to the drawing table. As you can see, here's the original digital sketch of Storm. And I went ahead and did a pencil drawing over that using the light table. You can see I had no idea what I wanted to do with her left arm. You'll see what I decided later on. So I'm still working things out here. I'm kind of combining costume ideas. There's Colossus. I really wanted to show him as being really big and clunky and imposing. There's the pencil drawing of him. Kind of hard to see with the sheen. And here's the original digital doodle of Wolverine. I wanted to do the original stocky, short, little animalistic Wolverine. Here's the sketch. Still got to work on proportions and stuff, but you know, he's kind of like a hairy brick with claws, and I kind of like that look for Wolverine. So once I finished with these initial drawings, I went ahead and rescanned them, and I manipulated them a little more in Photoshop. Woohoo! The sketches are printing out. Now I can start drawing. We're not messing around with the computer right now. Pencils, erasers, ink. We're pulling this stuff out of the museum and we're putting it to work. We're doing this old school way. Razor blade, pencil. Gotta get this thing sharp. Can't do that with a pencil sharpener. Gotta do it the way the barbarians did it. Gotta do this with a single edge razor blade. You'll cut your hand open. There you go. Razor blade. Alright, let's go. Okay, so Storm's all done. You saw me doing the pencils, and I just went ahead and inked her. And now I've redrawn Colossus, and I'm going to start inking this bad boy. Finished inking Colossus, and normally at this stage, at least in the old days, I would fix this up and tweak it using some gouache or whiteout to fix up the stuff that I inked poorly, but this is the digital age, so we're going to just bring this right into the scanner and fix this in Photoshop. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. Screen up here. Click overview. Now it's going to be really important to scan this properly. I generally scan my work at 600 ppi or higher. You can go higher than that if you want, but 600 is usually okay because generally my work is larger than print size anyways. So I'm just going to scan this and we'll open it up in Photoshop. I don't know if you can read my settings, but you can see 600. Set the black and white, named it. I'm going to scan this as a TIFF because I don't like JPEGs. They're smaller, but they also will corrupt over time if you resave them by accident, so TIFFs are more flexible. So we're just going to click save and get this into Photoshop. No more shaky handheld camera here. We are screen capturing. So I have taken the inked drawing of Colossus, scanned it, have the file open here. Now we got to clean it up. I'm going to be combining it with two other figures, so I want to get rid of the backgrounds so they're just floating on a transparent layer. So I've got to start getting the black's blacker and the white's whiter, but let's see what I can select in the background first. It's not bad, not bad. Still got some stuff we can select and get rid of here. Some little dust specks and eraser nubbies. It's not too bad though. I almost want to ignore that stuff. So once I get all this selected, I just hit delete. Get rid of all these empty spaces here. Oops. Let's turn this into a layer first, why don't we? Delete it. Now let's go to the preferences. I should have done this before, but I want to see that we have transparency, so there we go. I picked a rude color, so it's pretty obvious what we got going on there. Alrighty, and we can see we still got some other things to select, but I'm going to, from this point on, speed the video up so you don't have to sit here and listen to me talk. Again, I'm going to use levels now to clean up the lights and the darks. And there we have it. Colossus is all cleaned up and ready to combine with the other figures in color. We just went through the process of cleaning up Colossus, but I did that same thing for all the figures. So I got Colossus, Wolverine, and Storm all cleaned up and ready to go. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the original digital doodle that I did of the three characters and how I wanted them approximately together. So I put them on a base layer just for position's sake, and I'm going to bring in the actual drawing. So we're going to start off with Storm because she's pretty much behind everybody else. So there's a final drawing. I'm going to Command A, select all, copy, and I'm going to just drop her on top here. So there she is. I'm going to name the layer so we don't get mixed up. I'll kind of roughly move her into position. Pretty good. Alright, let's do Colossus next because he's just in front of her. So we got Command All, copy, and we'll dump him in there. I need her behind. Let me see. Yeah, I'll keep him in front of Storm. So there we go. He's standing there. And we're going to name this layer. Always take the time to do it right. I think I might actually be spelling it right too. And last but not least, we got our aggressive little Wolverine here. Copy, paste. Let's see, we'll drop him right in there. He's little. So he's leaning against Colossus. Maybe let's name that Wolverine. Let's fiddle with Storm a little. Maybe she can go a little higher. Get that cape right behind Wolverine's head. I'm also going to tilt her a little bit so she's kind of leaning into the group. No, she's floating. Alright, so Wolverine's supposed to be like 5'3". She's probably around 6 foot. I don't know her actual height, but that's about what I made her. Colossus is probably like 7 feet tall here. So again, having fun doing some cartoons for once. So I've pretty much got them positioned the way I want. Turn off the sketch. Can probably fuss with it a little, but I'm going to start setting this up to color now. Now, I did all the characters singly, even though I knew they were going to be in a group, so I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I want to color them separately or not. What I may do is do a color layer for each one of them, and then I will combine them by adding cast shadows over the top to sort of connect them together and anchor them to the ground. I'm not going to do a background on this piece. So that will be the next step, just getting this set up for color. Now, I've been working on these files in grayscale mode up to this point. You can see here I've changed the mode to RGB. Even if I'm working for print, I will tend to work in RGB color mode simply because it allows me to use all the filters in Photoshop, some of which are not available in CMYK. Plus the color picking is just better, and as long as I pay attention to my gamut warnings, I can convert stuff safely later on. So we are now in RGB, and I'm going to start coloring. I decided I'm going to do these one figure at a time. It's, the comic book characters. It's kind of just overall neutral lighting. I'm not going to put them in a scary haunted house scene or anything, so I'm just going to go with their basic costume colors. And so I went ahead and I sampled some colors, which you see here from some artwork, some X-Men artwork, and these are the colors I'll be using to just block into the characters when I start working. So I'm going to start with Colossus and then go from there. So we're going to turn off all these layers. Whoops. And I'm going to create a color layer for Colossus. So I'm going to go with new layer. I'm going to call it color Colossus. I can't spell. And I'm going to set this to multiply. Now, my technique may not be the same as a lot of professional comic book colorists. What I tend to do is do a multiply layer over the top of my inks, and so the colors are going to influence the line work. They're going to deepen the blacks that are there already. If I want to work with colored line work, then I'm going to have to approach this differently, but I'm going to keep all my lines black here. So a multiply layer is going to work just fine. And what I'm going to do is go to the Colossus layer, and I'm going to select all the transparent parts. So everything around Colossus is now selected. I'm going to then invert that selection. So now Colossus is selected. So it's a good, easy way to do it. Make sure now I switch to the color layer. So I've got my colors up here. He's got a red and yellow costume, and he's sort of a steel gray. So maybe what I'll do is I will start with a gray. Let's go lighter than that color though. Let's go more of a neutral gray for him. And I'm just going to use my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to just fill him up with that gray color. Okay, so that'll be like his mid-tone gray, mostly for his metal. But now this allows me to go ahead into my color layer, and I'm actually going to lock the transparent pixels now. So if I deselect this and I do some painting, watch what happens. It'll only paint on the pixels that have already had a color applied to them, and the transparent pixels don't be affected. So I don't have to leave him selected. I don't have to do a mask or anything like that. So we're going to start from this. I'm going to actually speed this part up. And with the magic of technology, Colossus is done. Let's zoom out so we can see his whole figure there. And I went ahead and I finished up Wolverine. There he is there, leaning against his buddy. And here we have Storm floating there next to them. I also threw in a cast shadow, added a linear filter to it. Because again, trying to keep this cartoony, making it look like a comic book. Could zoom in a little bit here and look at the details. So I'm sure professional comic book colorists are going to have more efficient ways of doing some of the things I did. But this is the way I approach it. You can see I kept all hard edges. I didn't do any blending. Because again, I wanted to keep this kind of clean, precise. It could be reproduced almost at any size and still work. Had fun playing with their costumes. Kind of used their original costumes as reference and then just played with it a bit more. Gave Storm some Kenyan influence with the colors I added. Again, went with the real original short 5'3" Wolverine, and gave Peter some pants. They don't always show him with pants in the comic, but I think it looks good that way. So there you have it. Oh, and then we'll add my digital signature down at the bottom. Appreciate you watching. Have a great night.